There's a gentleman back here. Yes, please.
Mine is more of a reflective comment, which I'm sure will generate some response. I'm actually a Gilbert alum. I'm also a student of Professor Gilbert as well, and we've had a lot of conversation about Condoleezza Rice. And I think what struck me the most for me to just move away from foreign policy is her personal life story. She comes from Alabama. She's born right during the period of Brown versus Board of Education. And I think what really struck me, being born a decade later in the 60s, is that she sort of forgot about the collective struggle of black people. And I find it very tragic about her, and I'm hoping that maybe at some point, seriously, that she will rethink that the struggle, for all that she was able to enjoy, came out of a collective struggle. That's why when I teach my course at Metro State, social movements, it's to remind people that your grounding is with your people. And it seems to me that at some point she forgot about where her cultural grounding was, which would then allow her to be tempted by all kinds of grandeurs of power. Because even when I was at Denver, in the same program, magnificent program, but I realized when I was getting ready to do my doctoral dissertation, I knew nothing about my own people's history. So when I did my own doctoral research, I studied about South Africa and the struggle of black South Africans in South Africa. I'm just telling you that because I think it's very striking to watch someone as gifted as she was and is, how she forgot her grounding. And I think it's very informative for every human being because she clearly, was very gifted, but forgot about this sort of essential component. How interesting that her father made a decision to sort of shield her from the experiences that were going on at the height of civil rights while she was in Denver. I think it's a very interesting thing to think about.
Just a footnote to that. When we organized campaigns against racism at the University of Denver while I was there, we, and I include Alan in this, organized a chapter of the International Committees Against Racism. And Condi was at that time, I think still an undergraduate, but she was quite enthusiastic and supported those activities, at least insofar as attending forums and speaking out about stuff. But when it came to demonstrations or rallies or actual political activity outside the classroom, she shrunk back. And what was interesting about that as well is that I would go to John Rice, her dad, and tell him, we're having this little campaign, and you should know since you're the provost, and we of course don't want it to get out of hand, but it could get a little loud. And he would kind of nod his head and say, yeah, that's okay, just keep it cool. And then he would slip me a $5 bill or a $20 bill for printing up leaflets, for renting a room, for the activity and so on. He would never publicly endorse any such thing as a university official, but I always felt that he was at least implicitly supportive. But boy, he kept Condi out of the line of fire. And he guarded not only his own, but her reputation in that respect too. Kept the options open.
Just one weakness in the film. Another small, but somebody says that I'm sure he may have opposed the use of children, as he puts it. Now, in fact, in Birmingham, King had just been arrested, and it was the thing that saved them that high school students came out. And high school students are not children, and poor black folks, you get arrested, you get in jail, you get your property confiscated, pretty serious. It was actually a brilliant tactical move on Martin Luther King's part to involve them, just to put it very sharply. And John Rice, on the one hand, patrolled Birmingham after the children were killed in the church that his daughter went to school with, went to church with a gun against the Klan, and had that aspect. And on the other hand, opposed what gave the movement life. And both things are true about him. So on the one hand, he's very decent and supportive, but on the other hand, she was just too young to be in those demonstrations at that time. And by the way, she wasn't an undergraduate. She was in the classes with you, which were the first classes at the University of Colorado. And, you know, so we all had the same, I mean, we both had the same. But I think you had a much sharper
We're talking about 1975 to 77, roughly, in that period.
Right.